The small gray device on Dr. Elizabeth Ward's desk beeped 3 times. She looked up from her notes and frowned. The signal detector wasn't supposed to make that sound. Elizabeth pushed her long brown hair behind her ears and tapped the screen. The readings made no sense. The signal came from just beyond Neptune's orbit, but it matched no known Earth or colony transmission pattern. Elizabeth called her assistant. "Alan, come see this." Alan Gordon walked into her office at the Lunar Research Center. He was tall and thin with short black hair. "What's up, Doc?" he asked with a smile. "Very funny. Look at this signal pattern. Have you ever seen anything like it?" Alan studied the screen. His smile disappeared. "That's not one of ours." Within hours, the Lunar Research Center buzzed with activity. Scientists from every department gathered in the main conference room. The signal was clearly artificial, but used no known human communication method. Earth Space Force was notified. Immediately, Commander John Phillips received the order to investigate while his ship was resupplying at the Mars station. At 45, John had gray at his temples, but still maintained the strong build of a career military man. His eyes were sharp and missed nothing. "Prep the ship," he told his second-in-command. "We leave in 3 hours." The journey to the signals. Location took 11 days. Dr. Ward joined the mission as the scientific advisor. She spent most of the trip analyzing the signal, which repeated every 9 minutes. "It's definitely a distress call," she told Commander Phillips as they approached. "The coordinates. The pattern shows increasing urgency." "Or it's a trap," John said. He had seen too much in his 20 years of service to take anything at face value. "We're within visual range," called out the sensor operator, putting it on screen now. The main view screen showed a small ship, unlike any human vessel. It had a sleek, curved design that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. It was dark, except for a pulsing blue light at what appeared to be the front. "No signs of weapons," reported the tactical officer. "The ship is approximately 1/3 the size of ours. I'm detecting minimal power readings." Commander Phillips ordered a careful approach. Dr. Ward's heart raced. This could be at humanity's first contact with alien life. As they drew closer, the blue light on the alien ship brightened. A beam shot out, touching their hull. "We're being scanned," said the tactical officer. "Let them look," John replied. "But keep shields ready." 3 minutes later, they received a transmission. It contained no audio or video, just text in perfect English. "Greetings, Earth vessel. We are the Valari scout ship Luminous Seeker. We have suffered system failures and require assistance. We mean no harm." Elizabeth read the message aloud, her voice trembling slightly. "They know English." "They know we're from Earth," John nodded. "That means they've been watching us for some time." After careful consideration, Earth Command authorized assistance. A team in protective suits boarded the alien vessel. They found 3 aliens tall, slender beings with 4 arms and pale blue skin. Their large eyes had no pupils, just swirling patterns of light. The Valari ambassador was named Krell. Once brought aboard the human ship, he showed remarkable composure. The medical team confirmed the aliens could breathe Earth's atmosphere with only minor discomfort. "We apologize for the unconventional introduction," Krell said through a translation device on his wrist. His voice was melodic, almost like singing. "Our intention was to approach Earth officially, but our propulsion system malfunctioned." "How long have you been observing Earth?" Commander Phillips asked directly. "Your species has been known to us for approximately 200 of your years." Krell answered, "We are members of the Galactic Concordat, an alliance of 17 spacefaring empires that has maintained peace for over 10,000 years. Dr. Ward couldn't contain her excitement. "There are 16 other advanced species?" 17 in our alliance, Krell corrected. There are 23 spacefaring species in total. The others belong to the Hegemonic Alliance or remain independent. The Valari ship was towed back to the Lunar Research Center. News of the aliens spread across Earth and the colonies. Some people panicked, but most were fascinated. At the center, Sam Harris was assigned as a junior diplomat to the alien delegation. At 28, Sam was considered a rising star in international relations. He had sandy blonde hair, friendly blue eyes, and a gift for putting people at ease. The Concordat believes in cultural exchange and mutual benefit, Krell explained during one briefing. The hegemony believes in domination and forced subjugation. We have been at a stalemate for thousands of years. Sam noticed something odd. In these meetings, despite being technologically superior, the Valari seemed almost nervous around humans. They were unfailingly polite and careful in their interactions. After one meeting, Sam approached Dr. Ward in the cafeteria. Have you noticed how they act around us? It's like they're being extra cautious. Elizabeth nodded as she sipped her coffee. I've seen it too. They're studying our reactions constantly. But why? They have ships that can cross galaxies. Their medicine could cure most of our diseases. Why would they be cautious around us? Elizabeth thought for a moment. Maybe they know something about use that we don't. Over the following weeks, more Valari arrived in a larger ship. They established temporary quarters at the Lunar Research Center. Cultural exchanges began, with humans learning about the vast galactic civilization that existed beyond their solar system. Krell showed particular interest in human history. Your species evolved under unusually harsh conditions, he noted while reviewing Earth's historical records. Most intelligent species develop in more stable environments. Sam was giving Krell a tour of the historical wing when an accident occurred. A maintenance worker dropped a heavy tool, creating a loud bang. Sam merely flinched, but Krell's reaction was extreme. All forearms extended in a defensive posture, and his skin briefly changed color. I apologize, Krell said, composing himself quickly. We Valari are sensitive to sudden stimuli. No problem, Sam replied casually, but he filed away the observation. The aliens were jumpy, despite their advanced technology. That evening, Sam shared his observations with Dr. Ward in her office. They're afraid of something about us. But what could possibly threaten them? They're so advanced. Elizabeth pulled up the data they had gathered on the Valari and other Concordat species. Each species seems to have specialized evolutionary paths: logical thinkers, intuitive thinkers, consensus builders, pattern recognizers, but humans ... We're all over the place, Sam finished her thought. Exactly. We adapt. We change thinking patterns rapidly. We're unpredictable. A notification appeared on Elizabeth's screen, a message from Krell requesting a private meeting the following day. The subject line read, Discussion of Galactic Historical Patterns and the Human Variable. I think we're about to learn why. They're really here, Elizabeth said. Sam nodded. And why the smart empires want to be our friends. 6 months passed since the Valari first arrived. Earth had been invited to send representatives to the Concordat's central meeting world. The newly built ship Horizon stood ready in the moon's orbit, equipped with technology shared by the Valari. That would allow it to travel faster than light. Captain Lisa Miller walked through the ship's corridors, inspecting every detail before departure. At 38, Lisa had risen quickly through the ranks of Earth's Space Force. Her short blonde hair was neatly trimmed, and her green eyes missed nothing. This would be humanity's first journey beyond their solar system, and she felt the weight of responsibility. All systems check out, Captain, reported her chief engineer, Paul Wright. The Valari drive is fully integrated and functioning. Thank you, Paul. Let's hope it works as well as they say it does. Dr. Elizabeth Ward. And Sam Harris joined 20 other diplomats, scientists, and military personnel as Earth's first delegation to the stars. Krell would accompany them as guide and advisor. The journey will take 14 days, Krell explained as they prepared for departure. Your ship would normally take several of your lifetimes to reach our destination, but the phase drive compresses space in front of the ship and expands it behind. The launch was broadcast worldwide. Billions watched as the horizon disappeared in a flash of blue light, leaving the solar system behind. During the journey, Krell spent many hours in the ship's lounge answering questions about galactic society. Elizabeth and Sam were particularly interested in understanding more about what made humans different. Most species develop along predictable evolutionary paths, Krell explained. The environment shapes thinking patterns in consistent ways. The Zorani evolved on a world with regular, devastating storms, so they developed perfect long-term planning abilities. The Miretii face no natural predators, so they excel at consensus building and cooperation. And humans? Sam asked. Your world is unusually varied and challenging. You face changing climates, multiple predators, competing species. It created what we call cognitive adaptability, the ability to rapidly change thinking patterns. Elizabeth leaned forward. Is that why the Concordat is interested in alliance with us? Because we think differently? Krell's skin shifted slightly to a deeper blue. Partly, there are also historical patterns that suggest allying with humans is beneficial. What patterns? Sam pressed. You will learn more when we arrive. Krell sighed, clearly uncomfortable. The ship emerged from phase space near a massive blue-green planet circled by elegant ring stations. Captain Miller guided the horizon to the designated docking area on the largest station dot as they disembarked. The humans were met with a sight none had prepared for. A gathering of representatives from 16 different alien species. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others walked on multiple legs, and some moved in ways that seemed to defy physics. A tall, crystalline being approached them. Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Supreme Counselor Vitri of the Concordat. Your arrival has been anticipated with great interest. The humans were shown to their quarters, which had been carefully designed to accommodate Earth's standard gravity and atmosphere. The next day, formal introductions began in the Grand Assembly Hall. Each species presented information about their civilization, technology, and philosophy. When it was Earth's turn, Elizabeth gave a presentation on human history and culture. She noticed how intently the aliens focused on her description of how humans had overcome numerous challenges throughout their development. After the introductions, the Concordat arranged a series of demonstrations. Representatives from each species showed their unique abilities and approaches to problem solving. The Zorani demonstrated their remarkable prediction abilities, forecasting the outcome of complex systems with perfect accuracy. The Miretii showed how they could achieve unanimous consensus on complex issues in minutes through their unique form of communication. When it came time for the humans to demonstrate their abilities, Captain Miller stepped forward. The Concordat had prepared a series of puzzles designed to showcase different thinking styles. The first puzzle was designed for logical, sequential thinking, a complex mathematical problem. Lisa solved it methodically. The aliens seemed unimpressed, as many species excelled at logical thinking. The second puzzle required intuitive pattern recognition. Again, Lisa worked through it successfully, this time using a different approach. Entirely. Murmurs spread through the alien representatives. The third puzzle combined both types of thinking and added emotional variables. Without hesitation, Lisa shifted her approach again, solving it even faster. Remarkable, Petrie said. Most species excel at one type of thinking and struggle with others. To shift between modes so effortlessly is unusual. During a break, Sam wandered through the gathering areas, making casual conversation with different species. A small, furry alien with 6 eyes approached him. "You are human, yes? I am Trilly of the Vespari. We have stories of beings like you, from our ancient times." "Really?" Sam asked. "What kind of stories?" "Tales of visitors from beyond. We call them the Vanishers in our language. They came, shared knowledge, formed alliances with some of our ancient kingdoms. Those who welcomed them prospered greatly." "And those who didn't?" Sam asked. Trilly's fur rippled. "They vanished from history. Not through war or conflict, but through 1,000 small failures over generations. Eventually, they simply ceased to exist as distinct civilizations." Sam found Elizabeth in the Earth delegation's common room. "I've been hearing strange stories from several species. They all have legends about beings that sound a lot like humans visiting their worlds thousands of years ago." Elizabeth looked troubled. "That's impossible. Humans didn't have space travel until recently." "I know, but the descriptions are too similar to be coincidence. And there's something else. These stories all end the same way. Civilizations that allied with these visitors thrived, while those that opposed them eventually disappeared." Later that day, the Concordat Council called a special session. Supreme Counselor Vitri addressed the human delegation directly. "Honesty is valued above all in the Concordat. It is time we share the real reason we sought alliance with Earth." Lights dimmed, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the hall. It showed a complex web of historical events across multiple star systems. "Our precognitive specialists and historical analysts have studied patterns across 12,000 years of galactic history," Vetri explained. "We have identified a consistent outcome. Civilizations that form alliances with beings like humans prosper. Those that make enemies of such beings invariably decline and fade from relevance." "But humans haven't been in space until now," Elizabeth objected. "Perhaps not your current civilization," Vetri replied, "but the pattern is unmistakable. Something about human thought processes, when integrated into another society, creates remarkable resilience and growth. When opposed, that same quality seems to ensure the eventual dissolution of the opposing culture." Sam thought about the stories he had heard. "You think humans, or beings very much like us, have been here before?" "We believe it is possible," Vetri acknowledged. "And we believe the hegemony has reached the same conclusion. That is why they will try to either control or eliminate humanity before you can fully join galactic society." Captain Miller stepped forward. "Are you saying we're in danger?" "I am saying," Vetri's crystalline form shimmered, "that the smart empires befriend humans. The rest vanish from history. The hegemony has chosen their path. They will come for Earth soon." 1 year after first contact, Earth had been granted provisional membership in the Concordat. The alliance provided technology, knowledge, and protection in exchange for human advisors, who are now in high demand throughout Concordat space. Frank Daniels sat in a strategy room on the Valari Defense Station near their border with Hegemony Space. At 52, Frank had gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen many conflicts. Before joining the space program, he had been a military strategist for 30 years. Valari officers surrounded him, their blue skin looking pale under the bright lights. They studied a 3-dimensional map showing ship movements along the border. "The Hegemony fleet has been building up forces in this sector for 3 weeks," said Commander Zenith, the Valari defense leader. "Our analysts predict they will attack here, our mining colony." Frank studied the map, then shook his head. "It's a feint. They want you to reinforce the mining colony." "How can you be sure?" Zenith asked. "Because it's too obvious. Look at their supply lines and communication relay positions. They're actually preparing to strike here. Frank pointed to a different sector. This trading hub is their real target. The Valeri officers looked skeptical, but they had learned to trust human intuition. They adjusted their defense plans accordingly. 3 days later, a hegemony fleet launched their attack, exactly where Frank had predicted. The Valeri were ready. When the hegemony ships encountered unexpected resistance, they tried to adapt, but their tactics were rigid and predictable. Frank suggested a constantly changing defense pattern that confused the hegemony commanders. After suffering heavy losses, the enemy fleet retreated. How did you know? Commander Zenith asked after the battle. Frank smiled slightly. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've learned to think like our enemies and anticipate deception. Back on Earth, the first alien embassy complex had been established outside Washington, D.C. It housed representatives from 12 Concordat species. Nicole Wright served as head of security for the complex. At 35, Nicole had previously worked for intelligence agencies before being selected for this important role. Nicole's office overlooked the embassy gardens where aliens and humans often gathered for informal discussions. She was reviewing security footage when her assistant, Greg Bennett, knocked on her door. "We've got a situation," Greg said. The surveillance team caught someone taking photos of the Miradi ambassador's residence. When they approached him, he ran. Nicole frowned. "Show me." The footage showed a man who appeared human, but when cornered by security, he moved with unnatural speed and agility before escaping. "Not human," Nicole said. "Probably Shriken. They're a hegemony species that can mimic human appearance." Over the next week, Nicole's team uncovered evidence of several hegemony agents operating near the embassy. Their goal seemed to be to kidnap humans for study. Nicole set a trap, using herself as bait. When the agents made their move, Nicole's team was ready. They captured 3 Shriken operatives. During interrogation, one of them revealed their orders. "The hegemony high command is afraid," the agent said. "Their predictive models show that any empire that goes to war with humans eventually ceases to exist. So they want to study us," Nicole said. "They want to find your weakness before you find theirs." On the Concordat Central World, Dr. Elizabeth Ward now led a research team studying the historical records about the Vanishers. She had access to the Concordat's vast archives, which contained information from thousands of worlds. Elizabeth found consistent patterns across multiple ancient civilizations. Mysterious visitors arrived, shared knowledge, and formed alliances. Those who welcomed the visitors thrived and eventually became founding members of the Concordat. Those who rejected or attacked the visitors experienced gradual decline over generations. Sam Harris, now working as a cultural liaison, joined Elizabeth in her research facility. Their friendship had deepened over the past year, and they often worked late into the night, piecing together the puzzle. "Look at this," Elizabeth said, pointing to an ancient stone carving from a world called Tresic. "These figures match human proportions exactly, and the date on this is over 15,000 years old." Sam studied the carving. But humans weren't even building cities 15,000 years ago, let alone traveling to other stars. What if they weren't from our current civilization? Elizabeth suggested, what if there were advanced human societies in the past that somehow reached the stars, then collapsed or disappeared on Earth? "That's a huge leap," Sam said, but he looked thoughtful, though it would explain the legends. Their research was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth. The hegemony had attacked the human colony on Mars. 20,000 colonists were now hostages, and the hegemony demanded Earth's surrender. When the news reached the Concordat Council, an emergency session was called. Supreme Counselor Vetri addressed the gathered representatives. "This act of aggression cannot stand. The Concordat will provide full support to our human allies." Captain Lisa Miller, now Admiral Miller, was given command of a joint human Concordat fleet. But the humans suggested a response that surprised their allies. "We won't just fight their fleet," Admiral Miller explained to the Concordat military leaders. "We need to implement what we call chaos strategy, a constantly shifting approach. That combines diplomacy, limited military strikes, economic pressure, and cultural influence." The Valari admiral looked confused. "This is not a standard military response." "Exactly," Miller replied. "The hegemony expects a standard response. They've run simulations and prepared for it. They'll never expect this." Earth's response began with a series of small, precise strikes against hegemony communication nodes, not their main military targets. At the same time, human diplomats contacted neutral worlds along the hegemony border, offering favorable trade deals. The hegemony leaders were confused by this scattered approach. When they reinforced their main military bases, the humans instead targeted supply lines. When they protected supply lines, the humans launched a cultural offensive, broadcasting human entertainment and ideas to populations under hegemony control. Within 2 weeks, the first signs of unrest appeared on hegemony border worlds. Inspired by human concepts of individual rights and freedom, local populations began questioning their rulers. Meanwhile, Dr. Ward made a breakthrough in her research. She discovered ancient human DNA samples preserved in a Concordat scientific archive. They had been collected from various worlds over thousands of years. "The genetic markers are unmistakable," she told Sam as they examined the results. "These were humans, just like us. They somehow reached the stars long before our recorded history." "But how?" Sam asked. "And where did they go?" Before Elizabeth could answer, they received word that the hegemony forces on Mars had surrendered. The human colony was free, without a single shot being fired at the planet. The hegemony troops had been isolated, their supply lines cut, and their communication with high command blocked. Faced with growing dissent among their own ranks, influenced by human broadcasts, they chose to retreat rather than harm the colonists. The Concordat Council was amazed. In just 3 weeks, the humans had forced a hegemony retreat with minimal casualties on either side. "Now they'll understand," Vetri said to Elizabeth and Sam. "Now they'll see why the pattern has held true for thousands of years. Smart empires befriend humans, the rest vanish from history." "But we don't want anyone to vanish," Sam objected. "Perhaps not intentionally." Vetri's crystalline form shimmered. "But something about human influence causes societies that oppose you to transform or fade away. It has happened before, and it is happening again." 3 years after first contact, the hegemony had begun open hostilities against both the Concordat and Earth. The initial attack on Mars had been just the beginning. Now, the conflict spread across multiple star systems as the hegemony attempted to contain what they called the human infection. Admiral Richard Bennett stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defender, watching the holographic display of the battle unfolding near Alpha Centauri. At 60, Richard had white hair and deep lines on his face, but his blue eyes remained sharp and clear. He had been called out of retirement when the war began. "Status report," he ordered. "The hegemony fleet is advancing in standard attack formation," his tactical officer reported. "They're following the exact strategy predicted by our analysts." Richard nodded. "Time to change the game. Implement Chaos Pattern Delta." The human and Concordat ships suddenly broke formation, scattering in seemingly random directions. Some accelerated toward the enemy, others appeared to retreat, while still others moved perpendicular to the expected paths. On the hegemony command ship, Admiral Vrax of the Shriken stared at the display in confusion. "What are they doing? This violates all tactical logic." "Sir, we can't predict their movements," his second-in-command said. "Our targeting systems are struggling to lock on." Before the hegemony fleet could adjust, the human ships struck from multiple angles. They didn't target the enemy's warships, as expected, but instead focused on their sensor arrays and communication systems. They're blinding us, Vrax realized too late. The battle ended in 2 hours. The hegemony fleet retreated in disarray, having lost a third of their ships while inflicting minimal damage on the human Concordat forces. After the battle, Admiral Bennett met with his alien allies in the Defenders' conference room. "Your strategy was ... unusual," said Krell, who now served as a liaison officer. "Our military analysts would never have considered such an approach." "That's our advantage," Richard explained. "We don't follow a single strategic doctrine. We adapt constantly. I call it chaos strategy, not because it's random, but because it appears unpredictable to the enemy." "The hegemony relies on prediction and pattern recognition," Krell said. "Your methods confuse their entire command structure." On a Concordat diplomatic vessel traveling between systems, Peter Mitchell worked as a cultural attach. At 31, Peter had become an important figure in building relationships between humans and their alien allies. He had brown skin, a shaved head, and a warm smile that seemed to put even the most cautious aliens at ease. Peter sat with representatives from 5 different species, discussing the ongoing conflict with the hegemony. "What I don't understand," said Trilly of the Vespari, the small furry alien, "is why you humans form such deep bonds with your allies. Most species maintain practical, transactional relationships." "It's just how we are," Peter replied. "Humans naturally form tribes, communities, families. When we consider someone a friend, we instinctively work to strengthen them and protect." "Them? And your enemies?" asked a crystalline Zerani. Peter's expression grew serious. "We work just as hard to weaken them, often without even realizing we're doing it. Throughout human history, we've seen this pattern: societies that make allies prosper, while those that make enemies eventually fail." The aliens exchanged glances. "This matches the historical pattern we've observed," the Zerani said. "Perhaps. This unconscious human trait, magnified across galactic civilization, explains why empires that befriend humans thrive, while those that oppose them fade away." On a hegemony border world called Drekus, an uprising had begun. The planet's population, influenced by smuggled human entertainment and philosophy, had started demanding rights similar to those humans enjoyed. Governor Krell of the Shriken, no relation to the Valari of the same name, ordered his troops to suppress the protests. It was standard hegemony protocol show, overwhelming force to crush dissent quickly. But something unexpected happened. The show of force, rather than intimidating the population, enraged them. The protests grew larger. Workers in key industries went on strike. The Planetary Defense Force, many of whom had family members among the protesters, began to hesitate when ordered to use violence. In his palace, Governor Krell received a disturbing report. "The unrest has spread to 3 more cities. We've intercepted communications showing the protesters are using organizational techniques learned from human sources. Increase the punishment for dissent," Krell ordered. "Double the visible patrols." His security chief looked uncertain. "Sir, our predictive models suggest that we'll actually increase resistance by 30%. The models must be wrong. Follow standard protocol." The harsh response triggered exactly what the security chief had feared: widespread rebellion. Within weeks, the governor was forced to flee the planet as the local population declared independence and requested alliance with Earth and the Concordat. On the Concordat Central World, Dr. Elizabeth Ward's research team finally confirmed her theory. The ancient humans who had somehow reached the stars thousands of years ago had indeed influenced galactic history profoundly. Elizabeth presented her findings to the Concordat Council, with Sam at her side. Their relationship had grown beyond professional collaboration, and they now wore matching bonding bracelets, a human tradition they had chosen to symbolize their commitment. The pattern is always the same, Elizabeth explained, showing historical data spanning thousands of years. Empires that allied with these early human explorers thrived. Their cultures became more innovative, their societies more flexible and resilient. She changed the display to show another set of data. Those that threatened humans experienced cascade failures, not dramatic collapses, but 1,000 small disadvantages that accumulated over time. Their societies became more rigid, less innovative, more prone to internal conflicts. But how did these ancient humans reach space? Asked Supreme Counselor Vetri. We don't know yet, Sam admitted. Earth's historical records from that period are fragmented. There may have been advanced civilizations that collapsed, leaving few traces. What matters, Elizabeth continued, is that we understand the pattern now. Humans don't actively destroy their enemies. Something about human thinking, our adaptability, our creativity, our social bonds, creates an environment where rigid, hierarchical systems simply cannot compete in the long run. On the hegemony throne world, the High Command faced a crisis. 6 border worlds had declared independence in the past year. Trade routes were disrupted. Military units were reporting equipment failures at unprecedented rates. And worst of all, predictive models, the foundation of hegemony strategy, had become increasingly unreliable. It's as if the universe itself turns against those who oppose. Humans, said High Commander Vex, the leader of the hegemony military. That is superstitious nonsense, Supreme Leader Drax responded. The humans have no special powers. They are simply exploiting weaknesses in our systems. Then why can't we identify these weaknesses? Why can't we counter their strategies? Vex demanded. The answer came from an unexpected source, a junior analyst who had been studying human psychology. They don't think like us, the analyst explained nervously. Humans don't follow a single path of logic or intuition. They jump between different modes of thinking constantly. They form emotional bonds that influence their decisions in ways our models can't predict. Are you suggesting we cannot defeat them? Drax asked coldly. I'm suggesting, the analyst chose his words carefully, that our current approach guarantees our defeat. The historical pattern is clear direct opposition to humans leads to decline. Then what is the alternative? Vex asked. The analyst took a deep breath. The pattern also shows that those who ally with humans prosper beyond their previous limitations. Supreme Leader Drax rose from his throne, fury in his eyes. You suggest we surrender to these primitives? This is treason. It is survival, the analyst replied. The smart empires befriend humans, the rest vanish from history. We are already beginning to vanish. 10 years had passed since the Valari scout ship first entered Earth's solar system. The galaxy had changed dramatically in that decade. The hegemonic alliance had fractured, with half its former members now seeking peace with the Concordat and Earth. Those that continued hostilities faced economic collapse, internal rebellion, and technological stagnation. Catherine Bell stood before the Grand Assembly of the Concordat. At 42, Catherine had become Earth's ambassador to the galactic community. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her confident voice carried easily through the vast chamber. 10 years ago, we were strangers to the stars. She began. Today, we stand as partners in a thriving alliance that grows stronger each day. Representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations listened attentively. The Concordat had expanded as former hegemony worlds sought membership. Many have asked why this pattern repeats throughout history. Why do empires that befriend humans prosper, while those that oppose us fade away? Today, I want to share what we've learned. The chamber darkened, and a holographic display appeared, showing scenes from human history. Throughout human development, certain patterns emerged. Those societies that formed genuine alliances, It treated partners with respect and fairness. It built networks of mutual support. These civilizations prospered. Those that relied on force, intimidation, and control eventually failed. The images shifted to show modern Earth, then human colonies and joint human-alien settlements. Humans are not conquerors or warriors by nature. We are cultivators of allies. We instinctively strengthen those we consider friends through thousands of small action-sharing ideas, solving problems creatively, building emotional bonds that transcend practical considerations. Catherine gestured to the assembled representatives. This pattern, magnified across galactic civilization, explains the historical trend. It isn't a mystical curse or deliberate action. It's the cumulative effect of human minds unconsciously working to advantage friends and disadvantage foes through innovation, problem solving, and relationship building. As Catherine spoke on a former hegemony world now called New Dawn, Dr. Elizabeth Ward and Sam Harris established a new research center. The planet had declared independence 5 years earlier and joined the Concordat. Its population included both native species and human settlers who worked together in a unique, hybrid society. Elizabeth and Sam had married 3 years ago and now led a team of scientists from 12 different species. Their research center focused on cross-species cooperation and cultural exchange. The latest results are fascinating, Elizabeth told Sam as they reviewed data in their shared office. Societies with human influence develop hybrid cultures that are more innovative and resilient than either culture alone. Sam nodded, studying the charts on his screen. It's like a positive feedback loop. Human adaptability, combined with the specialized abilities of other species, creates something greater than the sum of its parts. And it works both ways, Elizabeth added. Humans who live in these hybrid communities develop new ways of thinking that they wouldn't have on Earth. Their research had identified the key mechanisms behind the historical pattern. Human cognitive flexibility, combined with strong social bonding tendencies, created environments where rigid hierarchies and control-based systems couldn't compete in the long run. Meanwhile, the remaining hostile empires of the former hegemony made a desperate final move. Led by Supreme Leader Drax, who had refused all peace offers, they gathered their forces for an all-out attack against Earth itself. If we destroy their homeworld, we break their influence, Drax told his commanders. Our predictive models show a 60% chance of success. What the models failed to account for was the depth of the bonds humans had formed with their allies. When the attack fleet was detected, ships from 28 different species converged to defend Earth. Richard Bennett, now in command of Earth's combined defense fleet, implemented a strategy that surprised even his allies. Rather than positioning forces to destroy the attackers, he created a formation that left clear escape routes open. We don't need to destroy them, he explained to his officers. We need to show them the futility of their approach while giving the reformers within their ranks a chance to take control. The battle lasted less than a day. The hegemony fleet, faced with unexpected tactics and overwhelming allied forces, found their carefully planned attack falling apart. Communications that had been intercepted showed growing dissent among enemy captains and crews. Admiral Bennett opened a channel to the hegemony flagship. Supreme Leader Drax, you have seen what opposing humans and their allies leads to. I offer you a choice: continue this pointless conflict and watch your civilization crumble, or join us in building something better. On his command ship, Drax faced a mutiny. His officers, influenced by years of exposure to human ideas that had filtered through despite censorship, refused to continue the attack. His own security team placed him under arrest. The new hegemony leadership sued for peace within hours. The terms were surprisingly generous: no punitive measures, only requirements for democratic reforms and open cultural exchange. 5 years later, The former hegemony worlds had transformed. Many had joined the Concordat. Others formed their own alliance based on principles of cooperation rather than control. A historical pattern held true once more. Those who befriended humans prospered, while those who chose enmity faded from relevance, not destroyed, but transformed beyond recognition. At the Concordat's Central University, now the largest center of learning in known space, a young student named Eric Gordon made a remarkable discovery. Eric was researching ancient Earth history when he found cave paintings from 20,000 years ago that appeared to show humans alongside beings that didn't match any Earth species. Eric took his findings to Dr. Ward and Sam, who had become respected elders in the galactic community. "These look like Valeri," Sam said, studying the images. "And these could be early Zorani." Elizabeth nodded slowly. "It suggests this cycle has happened before, perhaps multiple times. But how did ancient humans travel to the stars?" Eric asked. "We had no technology then." Elizabeth smiled. "Perhaps we weren't always the visitors. Perhaps sometimes we were the ones being visited." Sam looked up at the night sky visible through the university's transparent dome. "Either way, the pattern remains consistent. Something about humans, about how we think and form relationships, changes societies we touch. For the better, I hope," Eric said. "Usually," Elizabeth replied. "When we're at our best, we bring adaptability, creativity, and strong bonds of cooperation. Those qualities help any civilization thrive. On worlds throughout the galaxy, hybrid communities of humans and aliens continued to develop new technologies, art forms, and social structures that would have been impossible for either species alone. The remaining isolationist empires that refused contact with humans found themselves falling further behind, becoming historical footnotes as the rest of galactic society flourished. In the grand archives of the Concordat, a simple phrase was inscribed above the historical records section: "Smart empires befriend humans, the rest vanish from history." And beside it, added later, "Not because humans conquer or destroy, but because they cultivate and transform."